And in light of the unjustified attacks and the grave violations of Iraqi sovereignty, as well as the targeting of official security apparatus headquarters, the Council has decided the following. Firstly, confronting and actively countering military aggression, specifically those executed by warplanes and unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, which target the official headquarters and security formations of the Popular Mobilization Forces, along with other components of our armed forces. This will be done using all available means in accordance with the fundamental principle of the right to respond and self-defense. Secondly, the pursuit of those who participate in attacks against security institutions, the interests of citizens, and diplomatic missions, identifying the parties to which they belong, taking the necessary legal measures, and executing arrest warrants issued by the judiciary. The leadership will bear the full weight of responsibility for any delays or dereliction of duty, and it must be stressed that no individual is beyond the reach of legal enforcement.
In a region already on edge, Iraq is now at the center of a new and dangerous escalation. A deadly strike on a military site linked to pro-Iran militias has triggered outrage in Baghdad, raising fresh fears that the Middle East could be sliding towards a broader confrontation. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani has moved swiftly, instructing the country's foreign ministry to summon the United States envoy. The message is clear. Baghdad sees this not as an isolated incident, but as a violation of its sovereignty. According to Iraq's defense ministry, the strike targeted a base belonging to the Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF. At least 7 soldiers were killed and more than a dozen wounded. Earlier reports suggest the toll may be even higher, including senior commanders.
The Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, on Tuesday presided over an emergency meeting of the Ministerial Council for National Security. The meeting thoroughly reviewed the latest developments of the ongoing war and the military operations currently taking place across the region, along with their significant repercussions and potential impacts on Iraq. He affirmed that the state, with its authorities and according to the Constitution, is the sole possessor of the decision of war and peace. It will not allow any party or individual to usurp this right and will take legal action against any entity that acts contrary to that. The meeting reiterated the government's unwavering position concerning fundamental principles and its rejection of aggression and any targeting of the sovereignty of nations, as well as threats to alter their systems of governance and undermine their national capabilities, with an emphasis on a balanced policy of establishing the best possible relations with its regional and international surroundings and keeping Iraq from being drawn into the hotbeds of conflicts and wars. The meeting emphasized that the security agencies are fulfilling their national duties in maintaining security and stability in accordance with the Constitution and law, including the Popular Mobilization Forces, which constitute a fundamental pillar of our national security system. It is therefore incumbent upon everyone to ensure the protection of the personnel belonging to this security apparatus and to prevent any entity or individual operating within this body from acting beyond the confines of the law. And in light of the unjustified attacks and the grave violations of Iraqi sovereignty, as well as the targeting of official security apparatus headquarters, the Council has decided the following. Firstly, confronting and actively countering military aggression, specifically those executed by warplanes and unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, which target the official headquarters and security formations of the Popular Mobilization Forces, along with other components of our armed forces. This will be done using all available means in accordance with the fundamental principle of the right to respond and self-defense. Secondly, the pursuit of those who participate in attacks against security institutions, the interests of citizens, and diplomatic missions, identifying the parties to which they belong, taking the necessary legal measures, and executing arrest warrants issued by the judiciary. The leadership will bear the full weight of responsibility for any delays or dereliction of duty, and it must be stressed that no individual is beyond the reach of legal enforcement. Thirdly, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will adopt the specific arrangements required to lodge a formal complaint with the United Nations Security Council regarding any instance of aggression and all its subsequent consequences, calling for its immediate cessation and unequivocal condemnation, and will proceed to summon both the American Chargé d'Affaires and the Iranian ambassador. To deliver to them an official protest note regarding the attacks that targeted the Popular Mobilization Forces headquarters in Anbar province and other areas, and the Peshmerga headquarters in Erbil of the Kurdistan region of Iraq.
The PMF is no ordinary militia. Formed during Iraq's war against the Islamic State, it is now officially part of the country's security apparatus. But within it are powerful Iran-aligned factions, including groups long accused by Washington of targeting American interests in the region. Iraqi authorities say the attacks did not stop there. Additional strikes reportedly hit sites in Anbar province and even near Erbil, the capital of the Kurdish region. At the same time, Kurdish officials have accused Iran of launching ballistic missile attacks, killing civilians and security personnel. Iraq's National Security Council has responded with strong language, calling the attacks acts of aggression. Baghdad now plans to take its complaint to the United Nations Security Council, signaling that this crisis is no longer just regional, it has global implications. More significantly, Al Jazeera reported Iraq has given its armed forces and the PMF the right to respond. That single phrase could mark a turning point. Retaliation, if it comes, risks setting off a chain reaction in an already fragile security environment. This escalation comes against the backdrop of a wider conflict linked to ongoing tensions involving the United States, Israel, and Iran. Since late February, the region has seen a series of strikes, counterstrikes, and warnings. For Iraq, the stakes are particularly high. The country has spent years trying to rebuild stability after decades of war and insurgency. Now, it risks becoming a battleground once again, caught between powerful allies and adversaries.
On one hand, Washington is stepping up military pressure. On the other, it is quietly laying the groundwork for talks, which Iran reportedly rejected. Reports suggesting the U.S. is planning to deploy around 3,000 troops from its elite 82nd Airborne Division, which is one of the most combat-ready units in the world. Reports also suggesting that senior military commanders have submitted detailed plans for potential ground operations, even as the White House remains publicly silent on whether or when such forces might be used. But then Iran is not backing down either. Iranian military leaders issued a direct challenge, daring the US forces to come closer. Senior officials saying Iran has spent over 2 decades preparing for exactly this kind of conflict. And they claim they are ready. On one